Hey guys, Shane McMurray from the Wedding Report. In this episode, I interview a bride. Her name is Andrea from Alabama, and she got married back in October, at the end of October. So I thought it was still perfect for this year and to help other couples. Enjoy. So let's talk about your wedding. Let's talk about your story, how you guys met, and all that good stuff.
Well, my mother introduced his parents. So that, thank you, Mama, for helping me, years after you actually died. Obviously, I'm an older bride, and that's probably not your usual demographic.
Okay.
My husband, Jim, and I dated in college a little bit. And then went our separate ways, married different people. He has two girls, twins, that are 30. I don't have any children. Then we both got a divorce, and you do not sound like a Southerner, but let me just tell you, my father's first cousin married his aunt. So we have cousins-in-law. We are not cousins. I always hasten to add that part. We are not cousins. So we met again at a mutual cousin's wedding. And, and then I didn't hear anything from him. So I had to friend him on Facebook, and then he asked me, like, come on, buddy, hurry up here. And anyway, and so we dated for 3 years and just really hit it off. And just, then after 3 years, he asked me to marry him, which, as I told my niece, there was chicken roasting just like Harry and Meghan, but, in our 60s, no one got down on a knee. So, no knees, but still the roasting, just a cozy, happy time, which is what we like.
Well, believe it or not, I actually grew up in North Carolina, and I grew up in Charlotte. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So tell me about so you said there was a chicken roasting, but there was no down on the knee, but was there any special thing about the proposal? Tell me about that part.
It was wonderful to me, and it was just a really cozy time. That's something that we enjoy a lot. It was January, and it was the full moon with an eclipse, and the second full moon in the month, and so it was a cool time. It was cold outside and windy and nasty, and we were all inside, and he had brought a special bottle of wine, so I maybe had a little heads up.
Yeah.
He told me, and this is an older person's thing, he told me that he had already discussed it with his daughters and said that he was going to ask me to marry him, and they were enthusiastic and happy about that. They're wonderful girls who have been so kind and welcoming to me, which means a whole lot.
Yeah.
And my family already loves him, so we had a really nice bottle of wine, and actually we ended up not eating that chicken, so the chicken was kind of wasted.
That's okay.
That's
whole
what
moment was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
How long were you guys engaged for before you actually got married?
We were engaged for like a year and a half. So it took a bit of time just to get everything organized within the family. And my niece got engaged in the meantime, and and so we were waiting till after her wedding.
Sure.
She was in a much bigger hurry. She's 26, so
Yeah. So tell me about the wedding. What was the wedding? What was the theme? What did you guys do?
I am a horrible planner, and so even though I had a nice long time, I was just kind of like, what me worry, until the very end of it. My family has a little cabin on our farm in Cortland, Alabama, which is where we're from. So we were going to have the wedding reception at the cabin. So the venue is easy. There's no, you don't have to worry about the venue. The wedding itself took place in the Cortland Presbyterian Church, which is a pre-Civil War church. It's a beautiful old church there in Cortland. And, Cortland is tiny. It's got 400 people, so there was no competition for the day either. Both of those. And so it's sort of like, well, I kind of don't have to worry about this. I am a giant nerd. And so my idea of the wedding was Bilbo Baggins' birthday party and Lord of the Rings. You know,
Okay.
outside under this big tree, outside our cabin with a bunch of lights and stuff. And one of my brother's best friends from Cortland is in a great band and have his band. So it just kind of all seemed like this was going to be easy. Then, like 2 weeks before the wedding, the caterer backed out, and the person who was going to do the music at the wedding, not the band guy, he
Yeah.
was already good, but at the wedding backed out too. So, like 2 weeks before I got married, I had to scuttle around and find, but I mean, it was going to be a casual thing, barbecue, but still you have to have the food, you know,
Yeah.
barbecue or not. Anyway,
Yeah.
found another person to do that part, and found somebody else to do the church stuff. Both of them turned out absolutely great. The lady who played at my church was 90 years old.
Wow.
Uh, it was the music I had was "All You Need Is Love" to walk down the aisle. I mean, just the musical instrumental version, of course, of that. And then to walk out, "It's a Wonderful World," that Louis Armstrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her to pick hymns beforehand, you know, whatever, and she did, and it turned out great. Our wedding was on October 26th, 2019, and it it was outside, and it turned out wonderful. They predicted every bit of weather you can think of, from perfect to rain to freezing. The wind that morning blew so hard, I can't even tell you, it poured rain. Everything ended up fine, and it ended up perfect. But honestly, if I had to tell anybody to do it again, I would say be careful with a late fall wedding, even in Alabama, because the weather can be anything. It can
Yeah.
be so treacherous. Like I said, it turned out to be perfect. It wasn't too hot. It wasn't too cold. The rain went away. It was great, but it was extremely stressful, as
Yeah.
you can imagine.
Oh, I
We
can
did.
imagine.
Um, we ended up getting a tent. We weren't going to have one, but we ended up getting one, and it was really good to have a tent anyway, to kind of focus things, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, but that was extremely stressful. The people the people not showing, the caterer guy just canceling, just with the, you know, nothing. That was incredibly stressful, as you may well imagine. The
Mm-hmm.
other thing I will tell people, though, I found my dress, and of course it's the second wedding, you can wear what you want to wear, and I think a bride ought to wear what she wants to wear anyway. I
Yep.
found it at a place called Moda Operandi, which is a kind of discount designer uh, organization in New York, and is the most beautiful dress I ever saw in my life, I thought. And but it is an unusual dress. It has like little beading made into lace, and the back has got owls embroidered on it. And it was perfect. It was exactly what I wanted, and I loved it. And it was kind of a fancy dress for an outside barbecue thing. And just to be honest, my sister and my best friend put all kinds of pressure on me that wasn't, you know, quote unquote right. That, you know, if I wore that dress, I had to be inside, and everybody had to be more dressed up. And I was just, I
Yeah.
mean, and one of the things about being an old person, I was just like, no, I'm
Well,
not.
for anybody, really. I mean, if you're getting married, it's your wedding. You can do whatever you want, right? I mean,
Exactly. Exactly. And not to be a bridezilla or to be a you know, jerk about it or anything, but it really should reflect, you know, your vision of that day as
right.
much as you can. And let me just tell you, I came in, my fiance, who I told him I would take out a loan to pay half of it. I don't make a lot of money. And he was like, "Now I'll pay for it." And so I said, "What kind of budget?" You know, $10,000, which is not an enormous budget for a wedding. And I came in under that. So, I mean, it was. One of the reasons I was able to is friends in Cortland, and I'll send you some photos if you're remotely interested.
Sure.
Fortunately, I have incredibly talented friends who did all the flowers, and that, you know, that's such a huge part of your budget.
Yep.
And they did the most incredible, you know, wildflowers and vines and pine cones and candles, and it just, and my bouquet, my next door neighbor, who is a wonderful person and is like Dr. Doolittle. All animals love her. She did the most amazing wedding bouquet. She was like, I can do that. And I was like, kind of like, okay, you know, and
Yeah.
hers was beautiful. It was amazing. So I totally
Fantastic.
loved it. Yes. And like I said, everything ended up being just perfect. But I would tell people, if somebody tries to make you change things because it's not their idea of what you should do, don't listen. You know, ignore them.
Yeah.
Just go merrily on your way. And well, and then both of them came back and was like, oh my gosh, you were right. That was great.
Was there any, did you have any surprises for like cost that like, oh man, this, I didn't realize it was going to be this?
Yes, I did. And those were the people that we got. I mean, the original caterer was going to bring people to serve and stuff, and of course, then they didn't. So I had to find people, which in the first place was kind of hard, and to find anybody, and they were expensive. There were two ladies to serve and clean up afterwards, and one lady to help them, and then two bartenders. And
Hmm.
they all, I mean, they were totally worth it. I don't regret that one little small bit, but it was pricey. It was like I think 300 a piece for the night for the bartenders, and probably in other places nobody's going to even blink an eye at that. And I think 300 a piece for the two ladies and 150 for the helper. I
Yeah,
mean,
and then for the food and right.
yeah,
For the
exactly. And
food.
then it just, once you have to parse it out like that, it ends up, I think, being probably more expensive. But that was fine. They were great people. They were great bartenders. They were great helpers.
Yeah,
It was wonderful. So
that's
try a
awesome.
lot.
So
Uh,
thinking about all the vendors and services and the products that you actually had to work with, right, to go get your dress and all that. What do you think? What worked well, right? Like, what about any of the processes with any of the vendors worked well for you?
the cake people were wonderful. They did what they said they were going to do. It was ready on time. Um, they even said, "Well, you know what? You sound like you're pretty busy. For $100, we'll bring it." And see, and Cortland is tiny. There's nobody there
Yeah.
to do that. And thank God I had people who could do flowers. I didn't. Nobody could do a cake. So they drove it an hour one way for $100, and that was some of the best $100 I've ever spent. Because it's a fairly big. It was not an enormous wedding. There were like 80 people
Hmm.
there. I mean, but it was it was still a fairly big cake. Anyway, so that
That's
that
great.
was that was great and made everything super easy.
Yeah. What didn't go well? And I think you talked a little bit about that with like the caterers backing out and
Oh,
what
that,
was there anything else that didn't go well?
uh, no, honestly, I'm trying to think. No, honestly, the caterers really were the big thing. Of course, at the moment, that was horrible, but really stressing out over that outside wedding. Late October. October is my favorite month. And this is going to sound so stupid. My birthday's October 24th, and Jim's is November 23rd. And so for that month, that time in between, we're the same age. And I thought that was cool. So I pick a time, and October's my favorite month. So I picked it in October when we're the same age. But at the end of October, even in Alabama, it can be really cold.
Yeah.
And, I would, I needed to have thought more about what the weather could be.
Okay.
It turned out great. So thank God. But that was really stressful with all it's going to rain, it's going to be freezing, it's going to, blah, blah, blah. And
Hmm.
if I had picked the beginning of October in Alabama, it would be very unlikely to have cold weather or anything. You know what I mean? You can pick
Yeah.
a better time.
Sure.
On the other hand, if I'd picked August, everybody would have probably had a heat stroke. So,
Yeah, for sure. Right. Yeah.
you got
So
to think about that.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Are you guys going on honeymoon? Did you go on
We went
honeymoon?
on honeymoon. We went to Ireland. We had the best time. I totally recommend Ireland to anybody, especially on a honeymoon. Irish people, I had been to Ireland 20 years ago to go fox hunting. And so I was way down in the south in a totally rural place. So we went to Dublin because, that's totally different.
Yeah.
And even in Dublin, in the biggest city in Ireland, if you say hello to anybody, they will stop and talk to you. And they'll
Really?
be happy to say, "Oh, yes, they love to talk to everybody, and they like Americans, which is a nice thing. That's not true everywhere, but they love Americans. Oh
Mhm.
yeah, they find out that you're, like, oh yeah, we're here on our honeymoon. Let me buy you a drink. I mean, you're looking for some place to eat. Come here, and they'll grab somebody else off the street. Here, these people are looking for something. What do you think? And they'll
Yeah.
just sit and talk to you. I mean, guards at the museum will just sit there and talk and talk. It's so friendly and so much fun.
Yeah.
And I'm a small place, and so we were based in Dublin the whole time, which I didn't want to do, but actually that turned out to be great because you don't have to move your stuff. And
Hmm.
it's small enough that you can go on little day trips and see a whole lot of whoops, there you came back. A whole
Yeah.
lot of cool stuff
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
It it was wonderful. And
Totally worth it.
I beg your pardon?
Totally worth it then.
Oh, absolutely worth it, and absolutely worth it. And getting over there is not free, but actually, we didn't find it to be an expensive place at all.
Yeah. How long did you guys stay?
A week. I
A
mean,
week?
I back to work, but I work for the state of Alabama, helping people find jobs. I'm a
Okay.
career counselor, and Jim works for himself. He's an IT guy.
Oh,
So
nice. That's great.
yeah, yeah, it is.
So, so if you had a close, let's say your close friend was getting married, and I know this is probably most of your friends might already be married. I don't know,
Yeah.
but say you had a close
Well,
friend
I've had that are divorced now, so
yeah, let's say they were getting married. What advice would you give them?
to stay true to their original vision and keep an eye on your money, of course, and get any vendors agreements in writing.
Gotcha, gotcha. What about businesses? So, what recommendations would you have for businesses? Like, what could have they done better to help you guys?
Well, a lot of our stuff really was, like friends helping with flowers, and the venue, was our little family house, and everything. Honestly, I do have one other piece of advice. I bought the tablecloths and the napkins from basically the same price as you could rent them, but you got a choice of so many different colors. So I was able to do the colors and everything I wanted for basically the same price as after we were through. And but you have so much better choice and control over things. So there is that. So I
Mhm.
guess I could say a vendor could have more choices of tablecloths and napkins. Basically, the 2 or 3 people that I looked at around here to do the tent and everything, and also did glassware and tablecloths and napkins and stuff, they only had black or white.
Mhm.
And I got to use forest green and navy blue and eggplant and, made it colors like I wanted to have. But they had pink and, light colors and stuff as well if you had wanted that.
Mhm.
So I guess if vendors had a better choice of that, it would have been easier. But
Okay.
honestly, the guy used in Decatur, which is the next little town, who I also used, they also rent like post hole diggers and stuff.
Hmm.
And I've used them to rent a post hole digger. They are great. They sent guys out. Their tent was wonderful. The wind blew that morning like anything, and that tent did not. I thought it was going to blow away, but nope, stayed right where they put it. So
That's
they
awesome.
were.
That's awesome. Hey, do you have any other tips or ideas or things you want to share with anyone?
Well, Moda Operandi, that place in New York, it's all online, of course.
Hmm.
They actually have some really lovely things. It is not free, but it's significantly less than you're going to pay if actually you know contacted Vera Wang or any of those Rene Rousseau or any of those other places that that are around. And you also will be pretty guaranteed that you're probably not going to see yourself, that everybody else is not going to be wearing that same sort of thing.
That's nice. Good
Yeah.
tip. Good tip.
Yeah. I liked them.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Andrea, for doing this. I really appreciate it.
I was glad to. It was fun. I enjoyed it. And it was very nice talking to you.
Thanks so much. Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. I hope that you found it helpful. Please share it with other people. Also, if you're getting married or you work in the wedding industry, I would love to interview and share your information with other people. Send me a text 520-399-8580 or shoot me an email at letschat@wedding.report.